like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast, and call the May 28th, 2019 regular meeting to order with all board members present except Dr. Mike McQuarrie, and Mr. Richard Barrera is on his way in. Now, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and today we have the Army JROTC Color Guard from Kearney High School. Will you please stand for this presentation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. I would like a motion to adopt today's agenda with Section I, Superintendent's consent agenda, to be considered next following the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is by Mr. Biza and seconded by Mr. Evans. Dr. Evans, please vote. That passes 3-0. Now, please turn your attention to the screens as the Scripps Ranch High School ASB President Jerry Yang, and he's also the president of all the President's Councils for the City of San Diego, Jerry Yang, who will provide important information about today's meeting.
Today's meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting that is conducted in public, and board members will not engage in a dialogue with the members of the audience. The opportunities for members of the public to provide input to the board on agendized items and to provide testimony on non-agenda items is through the submittal of an electronic public testimony request. The time period for speakers on each agendized item are set by the board as described in the board's bylaws and will be announced to the members of the public as each agendized item comes up for discussion. Speakers on agendized items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the item. If you wish to address the board on any of today's agendized items, or on a subject that is not on today's agenda, and your name is not on the speaker list, printed on the blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and you have not already submitted a public testimony request, please complete the electronic form. For your convenience, iPads are available at the reception desk in the lobby and are also on the table at the back of the auditorium. Public testimony requests are automatically time-stamped and must be submitted prior to the beginning of the discussion on an item. If you need assistance completing or submitting the request, please see Board Services staff. You are asked to provide your name or the name you wish to be called by on the public testimony request so that the board action officer can ensure that all speakers on an item have been called. Public testimony on non-agenda matters will be heard at the conclusion of all agendized business. And a Spanish interpreter is available and is seated at the media table if you need any assistance. Thank you for your interest in participating in our board meeting.
And thank you. With that, does any board member wish to remove any items from the consent agenda, superintendent's consent agenda I? Are there any speakers on any of them?
Yes, there are speakers on items I-38 and I-54.
Minus 38 and 54. Any other items?
Madam President, I'll move Section I, the superintendent's consent agenda, with the exception of I-38 and 54.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor with a second. All in favor of the motion, please vote.
Did you vote?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you. That passes 4-0. Thank you. And now, if we could move to item C, student presentations, recognitions, and resolutions. Today, we have the honor of having Balboa Elementary School. Which happens to be in the Lincoln cluster, but is also in Sub-District D. So with that, we're going to let Bruce do it. Bruce Bivens, the area superintendent.
Thank you, President Dr. Whiter-Spain, board members, and Superintendent Martin. I have the honor and privilege to introduce Principal Bravo at Balboa Elementary, where they are, and his staff and the community, parents and students, are developing a culture of achievement through a dual language immersion program and student performance. So I would like to bring up Principal Bravo.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Martin, board members, families, visitors. Today, we have a treat for you. Our beautiful kinder presentation by the dual language team, sitting right here, Ms. Guerrero and Ms. Chastain, are going to do something amazing for you. So if I can please, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to come over here. But in the meantime, the presentation, after that, we're going to have some school data, some segments with student voice, parents, staff, and then we're going to close. Okay? So having said that, would you please join us over on this side? Muy buenas tardes, familias. Vamos a empezar, así que de este lado, amiguitos. And as they're setting up, I just want you to know that in this group we have Arab families that are speaking Spanish, and so we're very proud of the diversity in our schools. Para allá. Espacio, espacio. Okay, Greg. I'll give you a thumbs up when we're ready. Okay, Greg, we're ready.
Welcome.
Not yet. I'll ask. I just want you to know this is just a portion of our dual language. There are 50 students enrolled in these classes, so we were just able to bring 8 or 9 of them, and they did an amazing job. Muchas gracias, amiguitos. Hicieron un excelente trabajo, muy hermoso. So, and then they're gonna have another opportunity just in a little bit to come in front. And this is a kindergartner class, so imagine what they're gonna do when they're in 5th grade if they continue with this space of beautiful learning, dancing. So again, I'm the proud principal at Balboa Elementary School, and should I do that? And today it is my opportunity to present our school and to highlight a few achievements from our school. Okay. How do I click to the next slide? Is there a clicker? Who's working on
I'm sorry. Doing something else.
And today with me, I'd like to highlight my teachers. Ms. Chastain, please stand. She's the English portion. Ms. Guerrero, please stand. She is the Spanish portion. Ms. Solis is my resource teacher. Ms. Ramirez is our guidance assistant. And then, por favor, papás, levántense. Parents, please stand. These are my beautiful parents. Now we can start. This is the Team Balboa. It is comprised of 37 certificated teachers and 39 classified for a total of 79 is my team. Our students, we have this is how they want to contribute to our society, and we have a segment of information here. Go ahead, Greg.
Dream is to be a police, and I go to school because I learn math and how to read, so that when they ask me there's 20 robbers, and I know that and I need 20 handcuffs.
What's your dream?
My dream is vet because some animals, they're sick, and I don't like if they be sick, and sometimes if animals are sick, I can't touch them, so that's why I want to be a vet. When I grow up, I want to become a nurse to help people that are sick so they don't get hurt. My dream is to be a vet because that way I could help little animals and big animals. That way they're not afraid what they're supposed to be afraid of, and they could train. That way they could not be afraid.
Mi sueño es ir para Japón para ser un ninja y ayudar a las personas buenas de las personas malas.
A ver, pero los niños no existen.
Ya existieron.
¿Y de todos modos quieres ser un ninja?
Sí.
My dream is to be a doctor because the doctor helps us feel better.
My dream is to be a teacher, and this helps people for them to be learning, and school helps me by learning new things.
My dream is to stop global warming. And one way I can help people by doing that is by because of the pollution we have right now in cold places like Antarctica, it's melting and animals are dying.
Definitely. These are our student voices. At Balboa, we have established a culture of appreciation. We celebrate our students, staff, and community. We create worthy environments through the support of our ILT, through the support of our PBIS team, School Site Council, ELAC, SGT, community, and business partners. The locus of control and the sphere of influence. Our locus of control continues shifting based on the impact our activities and teaching has on our students. Our sphere of influence is in the variety of supports, programs, and individualized exposure. What lies outside of these circles, it is converse with agencies, partners, seeking their support and their guidance on how we can get it right. I am a Balboa scholar. Our daily motto guides our students' and adults' actions. I am a Balboa scholar. Can't hear you. I am respectful, I am responsible, and I am excellent. Thank you. And we recite this every single day. This is what guides our actions and our movements daily in our school. We are proud to grow international family service in more than 10 international languages with 66% English learners. Some of the languages that we service are Cantonese, Filipino, Spanish, Arabic, Farsi, French, Somali, Turkish, Brazilian, and Punjabi. Our school, it's about 533 students, 100% free and reduced lunch. Last year, or 2 years ago, we were at the 22 percentile. Last year, our numbers grew in third grade in English language arts at 38%. From 28 to 35 in fourth grade, and from 30 to 40% in fifth grade in English language arts. Thank you. In mathematics, we grew from 19 to 35% in third grade. We went from 21 to 33% and 19 to 35% in mathematics. I appreciate the applauses, but I know that we have a lot to learn and we have a lot of work ahead of us. But together with our Balboa team, our teachers, our classified staff, our parents, and our students, we will continue to explore ways to motivate, educate our students and our families to make the unthinkable. Okay? And this is one way we celebrate. When we celebrate students, we look for inspirational figures, such as Vivian Moreno, council member. And what did we celebrate? We celebrated from last year 12 students reclassified to 54 students being reclassified into the English learner. And this is very, very important for us. So the more we reclassify, then when they get to the middle school, they have more opportunities to take other courses, more rigorous. So, we have a commitment with our students. How do we do this? Well, in our professional learning communities, we set goals for each student here on the left, and they're individual goals, and they're drafted to meet the needs of their individualized learning. Those goals are connected to the essential standards, and they are monitored and adjusted on your right side. So as you can see, we have our students and the goals, and then we start shifting the students from one band to another just to make sure that we don't lose them in the transition. So we always draft where they are at all times. Our professional development is geared towards special ed, we discussed that, Tier 1 instruction, supporting English learners, professional development in other areas, what can we learn more of? The assessment this year, we're going to embark in learning how to better assess our students and to guide us based on the data selected. We are going to be able to draft our learning and our teaching, and definitely our PLC structures. In our professional learning communities is a group of teachers. They're sitting together to discuss, to analyze data, to think about ways of moving our students forward. But in all of this, I'm the principal. What can I say? I can say whatever you think, but this is the truth. Our parents' voice. Can you please go ahead and play the video?
Well, I feel like we have lots of great teachers that are really dedicated to our students, and I feel like a family here, which is really nice because the teachers aren't cliquey and they are all very nice and helpful if you need help.
What makes this a great place to work at is both the dedication and love of students that the teachers and staff show, and the hard work that the students put in.
Yeah. I think Balboa Elementary is a great place to work because the teachers are very supportive, the teachers are dedicated to their students, and they work hard, and we're always trying to find solutions to help our students succeed the best that they can. We work together as a team, and we're happy here. We really enjoy working here.
I like the kids, I like the parents, I like working with my colleagues. There's a warmness here at this school site that I haven't felt or that I could ever feel at any other site. We have something really good, special here.
I think that Balboa is special because teachers are not only supportive of students, but they are also supportive of each other.
One of the things that I like about the school is that it offers the bilingual teaching for my daughter, both in Spanish and in English. Being Mexican, I hablo español, I speak full Spanish, but it's nice to have a school where she's going to be graduating and getting a certificate saying that she's fluent in English and fluent in Spanish. Due to the area where I live, my zip code, I could have choose between Cesar Chavez School and Balboa, and I chose Balboa Elementary. Multiple times I had conversations with Mr. Bravo, and he's been very helpful in answering my questions.
Mi nombre es Anibel Islas, mis hijos van en la escuela Balboa y pienso que es una buena escuela porque te tratan de ayudar, te van diciendo lo que está mal, lo que está bien, y hay mucha comunicación con el director, con la oficina, las maestras. Pienso que es una buena escuela.
And we also have a lot of fun. If you can please play the video. Sorry. So this video that you were about to see, if we can see it, we created giant puppets. And every year, at the end of the year or during celebrations, we bring them out. And this is through the support of Bocon, which is, the arts that we have in our school. And the students have a tremendous time when they're seeing these giant puppets. And we're talking about 8-foot, 10-foot tall puppets. And then we bring the drums, and we make a celebration of everything that happens at our school. And this is part of our quest of bringing the outside inside the school through a project-based community. As you can see on this flyer, we also have presentations for our parents. And again, this is through the arts that we offer to our students in our school. And we just recently had a play for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And so we invited our community. In the middle pictures, we also had our Gold Rush. And then we brought horses to the school. One of our teachers helped us put all this together, an amazing teacher. And then again, we're trying to bring the outside inside the school so the students can be exposed. We believe that that is part of the success. When we expose our students, that's when our students are going to start thinking ahead, and they start thinking of what am I going to do next. And then I'll show you some things why this is important. We partner with district and city agencies in education to bring about the best of our school. We have Officer Mesa there, and then through FACE, we're doing home visits, we're doing reading programs, and then supporting and exposing our families to reading. And then also we partner with DEEP, which is another organization very, very important. Our parent involvement is over 50% due to the outreach activities planned all year, such as the ones you just saw. In the first picture, you'll see a parent reading with a student or share reading. And then on the last one, we have sharing reading strategies with mom and dad, some strategies that these parents learned through Family Friday. And then right in the center, we have a group of parents, which are comprised of our ELAC, and one of our ELAC members is here, and she'll speak at the end. But we wanted them to see what our classrooms look like. So can you please play the video in the center?
Experiment kits, that must be important information, right? So what else did I learn about the school in this?
It is 5 seconds. We had to short it because of that time. But anyways, at this presentation, the teacher was talking about the informational text, and then these parents were, presented with what are the students doing in the classroom and getting preparation for their SBAC testing. Again, we service the whole deal here. We do the students, we do the teachers, we do the families, but also we educate our parents. What is after the elementary school? What is after the middle school? What is after high school? Well, the next step is college and university. So we took a group of 20 parents to the University of UC San Diego, and they had a tremendous blast. And some of those parents are sitting here. They're already invested in the education of our students, and that's what we want. Once someone said, you can convince the student to go to college, but the hardest thing is to convince the parent. If you convince the parent, then the student will follow. So that's exactly what we do at Balboa Elementary School. We convince our parents that this is where we're going. Okay? And we have fun. We have fun. Right before the SBAC testing, when we started, a group of our amazing teachers, we all rocked the SBAC. I wish I could have shown you the film or the video, but there's no time. But we all dressed in rock and roll, and we rocked the test, and we had a tremendous time. Okay? Señora Morán, ¿puede pasar a decir unas palabras? Ms. Moran is a very committed parent. She has a 5th grader and then a 2nd grader? Segundo? 1st and 5th grade, and she's one of our parents liaisons. She's one of the parents that attended the UC. She's also a parent that volunteers out of school tremendously. She's part of the ELAC. This is a role model parent.
Buenas tardes y gracias por la invitación. Estamos muy contentos de que nos hayan invitado y darnos la oportunidad de agradecerles el apoyo que nos dan a la escuela, y esperamos que nos sigan apoyando. Nos gustan mucho las actividades que nos mandan. Si se fijan, los padres somos muy participativos y nos gustaría que nos siguieran ayudando para que nuestros niños sigan saliendo adelante. Y así como la escuela sale adelante, la comunidad también. Gracias.
I will summarize. She is asking the public, the officials, to continue helping our schools, to continue helping our students, because once you help the students, the community can get ahead in life as well. And This is Balboa Elementary School for you. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much, teachers. Thank you very much, students. Yes. Muchas gracias, amiguitos. Gracias, papás, por haber venido. Gracias, maestros. It's beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. Gracias, papás. Thank you.
We'd like to say thank you to the Balboa principal and staff and the cute little students doing their dance, the little K's. I love it. Maybe one day I'll try it too, just so I can add it to my repertoire. Thank you. And there are now some seats down front, so if some of you standing would like to come forward, it would be helpful. Thank you. Let us now go to item D, report on the closed session. Are there any reportable actions?
No, there are not.
Thank you. Item D2, the administrative assignments. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Whitehurst-Payne. We have one management appointment this evening, a special education compliance officer, Kimberly Guthrie.
Thank you. And now we go to our ASB report. I was looking around for the second student, and I'm going,
We just have one.
it's only one. I know it's the end of the school year, you're doing proms and all these other things, but thank you for coming, Sophia Naranjo. And you are from San Diego High, right down the street, so
Yeah.
feel free to give us a report.
Alrighty, so hello once again. I just want to introduce myself as Sophia Naranjo, president of the San Diego High School. I just want to start off at describing what the things that have been going on, the events, and just updates of what's going on in our school. We started off a little rocky, the ASB. We had transitioned from an old ASB director to a new one, so that was just a little it took some time figuring things out at first, but soon we got back into the groove of things, and it was we soon became very successful. Something that really helped us out to promote just the spirit at school was our football team ended up going to state and winning the state championship. So San Diego High School is very proud of that. It was amazing. Yeah, so we held many rallies for the football team during lunch and after school, and just gave them that support and just that love that they've been needing for a while. Another thing, so that helped our homecoming be very successful, both the dance and just the rallying, getting just that school spirit in our community. So some things that are recently been going on. So because testing is going on, like you said, we're winding down the year. After IB and AP testing, we invited volunteers from the Humane Society. They have a special program where they bring in therapy dogs. So they brought in therapy dogs for students. So students were able to come in and reserve an appointment, and they got permission slips. They're able to come down and hang out with some puppies and some dogs to relax them during that stressful time. So that was an awesome time. Yeah. Then we had a very successful campus cleanup recently, so that was very fun to get the community out and just a lot of the clubs and organizations on campus. We are also hosting a rally this week, so this week is our Spirit Week, so we're very excited to recognize those spring sports that we have going on, which also came home. Let's see, girls soccer, which is winter sport, they came home with another CIF win. So another CIF win for San Diego High School. So we've had a very successful sports season so far. And we're looking forward to a community rummage sale that we're going to be hosting in San Diego High School. So we're getting a lot of the community involved and teachers and students. So that's what we're looking forward to soon. So thank you.
Thank you. Where are you going to school?
UCLA. Oh. I've committed to UCLA.
Alma mater. Congratulations. Good for you. Any questions for her? Thank you very much. Let us move on to item D4, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Whitehurst-Payne. I believe my update tonight is going to be of great interest to everybody in our entire city, for all of our educators, because it's an immense source of pride. Today I was able to be interviewed by KPBS regarding a new study that's been released by the Learning Policy Institute out of Stanford. The study was co-authored by the new chair of the State Board of Education, Linda Darling-Hammond, and the report found that San Diego Unified students, including those that are from historically disadvantaged groups, are reaching, and this is what I quote, extraordinary levels of academic achievement in our district. This report found that African American and Latino students in San Diego Unified are, quote, defying trends and exceeding the performances of students of similar backgrounds in other districts across the state, end quote. I would like to urge everyone to take a look at this report, which is titled California's Positive Outliers, Districts Beating the Odds. I would just like to read you one line. Despite persistent achievement gaps throughout much of the state and the nation, students of color and students from low-income families in these positive outlier districts are beating the odds and achieving at higher levels than their peers of similar socioeconomic backgrounds in the rest of California. That is from Stanford professor Sean Reardon, one of the report's authors. Districts like San Diego Unified have shown that equity combined with excellence are not competing goals. In fact, a focus on equity is an essential ingredient in creating a culture of excellence that raises academic performance and produces better results for all students. Of course, that culture of excellence depends on our team of world-class educators. So I'd like to extend my congratulations to our teachers and most of all to our students for achieving this wonderful recognition.
Thank you very much for that report. Thank you. Follow up with that. Board reports. Let's start to my right. Paz? Dr. Evans? Paz?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that I had a chance to attend the quilt ceremony at Hoover High School last week. And what this is students who are being reclassified, in other words, who have achieved proficiency in English, go through a ceremony where they contribute to a large quilt that includes squares that have come from students before them in prior years, but each student contributes one square to the quilt. And what they put in their quilt are three symbols. One symbol for their past, one symbol for their present, and one symbol for their future goals. These are students from Afghanistan, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, the Congo by way of a refugee camp in Tanzania, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, all over the world. Many of these students have experienced challenges that most of us will never experience. They've lost parents, they've lost siblings, they've given up everything that they knew to come to this country for a better life, and they've now had to make the adjustment of being high school students, here in this country, but also needing to learn the language and needing to, learn a new culture. And all of the students powerfully described that, but maybe what was the most inspirational was in their future goals. To a person, every student's future goal was not just about what they wanted to achieve for themselves, but what they wanted to contribute to make this community and this world a better place. And so if we can get maybe an exhibition of the quilt, we should reach out to Hoover, but it really was an incredibly powerful example of what our public education system means. So I was proud to be there.
Thank you. And for me personally, it just seemed that I was on on the circuit, just going. It's the end of the year, and everyone is having a celebration, it seems, and I'm proud of our schools and our students for doing that. But I went to reclassification sessions at Hamilton and also at Mann. That was an interesting one. Tracy Peralt is the new person there and doing a fabulous job. The Rotary Club put on the career fair again at Porter for the 5th grade students. We went to the classrooms, and it was interesting having Lincoln students to actually come into Porter to share with them and to let them know we expect you to come here in the future and participate in our fire program, because the students were the ones doing it. Peace rally, attended a peace rally at MTM with a council person for District 4 and others, joint use meetings, etc. Johnson, on and on and on. And Canto had an outstanding parent volunteer session on Thursday. They have 67 regular volunteers going to Encanto. It's a school that will really watch what they're doing. And Scripps Ranch, the Peace Garden there, they had for Noel Mara, the DUI information. So you may want to go and check out Scripps Ranch High School and what's happening there with their ribbon cutting ceremony and the new building that they have, as well as the garden there for DUI to represent the student who was killed. And then the middle and high school showcase at Liberty Station was awesome last week, and I was looking for all the schools there and all the students who were showcasing all of their wares. I would invite everyone to look out for that next year because it's fascinating. Lots of foods. The kids were there demonstrating what they made, as well as all of the technology. The firefighters were there from Lincoln. I mean, it was just a whole event that occurs every year. And they love having people to share with their stories and what projects they've been working on. So I encourage you next year to really look out to participate in that. And there were some other meetings that I won't even talk about now, but let it be known the board has been busy. Item F, we have no student instructional matters, so we'll move on to the board consent agenda.
I move items F1 through F3.
Okay.
As well as F5.
All right.
Second. Could we do F5 separately as well,
Okay.
just so we can, yeah.
Just item F1 through F3.
Yeah.
Second as amended.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor. Do we have any speakers on 1 through 3? Okay, please vote on that. Thank you. That passes 4-0. And now I would like to do F4 and F5 separately.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. I'll introduce item F4. So item F4 calls for the support of this board for a package of legislation that is moving through the legislature in Sacramento. Just for a little bit of context, the initial legislation which authorized charter schools in California was passed in 1992. And the intent of the original legislation was that charter schools, which are publicly funded schools, funded by the taxpayers, would have the ability to test out innovative ideas that could then influence the rest of the public school system. That was the idea, create a kind of a laboratory of innovation. And I think we've seen around the state, and certainly in San Diego Unified, in the subsequent nearly 3 decades, many examples of great innovation that's come about through charter schools, and we will continue to see that. However, what we've also seen is that the expansion of charters in some cases has almost created a separate system of education funded by the taxpayers in a way that can actually destabilize rather than add to the existing schools in a community schools run by the district, schools that are existing charter schools. And so I believe this package of legislation is the right set of reforms coming forward at this moment, because it allows us to take a step back, look at what the intent of charter schools needs to be in a larger public education system, where we may have gotten to a point where by continuing to allow new charter petitions to come forward, we're actually destabilizing a district or districts throughout the state. One of the things that we have to keep in mind in our district in San Diego Unified is, due to the high cost of living in San Diego, particularly housing costs, we see families with students that are having a hard time staying in San Diego, and because of that, we see enrollment declining in both district-run schools and in charter schools. Actually, I think we're seeing higher rates of enrollment decline in charter schools. And so at a time where we see declining enrollment, we need to provide stability for our existing schools. This package of legislation allows for us to provide stability, to understand that we are one system and that the decisions we make, we have to take into account their effect on all students in our districts, not just on the effect of people who want to start a new school. I think it's important to note that the charter legislation going forward in Sacramento is not about what happens to existing schools. For instance, when a school comes to a school board for renewal, it's not about restricting renewals in any way. It's about looking at new petitions and saying, we need a timeout, and we need to focus on the interests of all of our students, because let's face it, if the superintendent were to come to our board and say that she wants to start a new school someplace, the first question that we would have as board members acting responsibly would be, why do we need the new school? What's the niche? What's it going to do for us that we don't already do? And importantly, how is it going to affect other schools? Because if we start a new school that may benefit some students, but yet the result is we see higher class sizes, fewer counselors, fewer resources going to existing schools, then as a system, we're not better off because we've got to be thinking about the interests of all students. This package of legislation allows us as local democratically elected school boards to take into account the impact of new petitions on our existing network of both charter and district-run schools. And it gives us a chance, again, to provide stability to a system which, as we know, is severely under-resourced to begin with. So based on that, I move approval of item F4.
Second on that motion.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've also supported this item on the agenda, and I think it's important to realize that this is not an us versus them and a straight pro versus con. Okay? In 1992, the California legislature passed the first charter school law, and it's been a long time, as Mr. Barrera said, where there have not been any revisions to the law. Now, San Diego has a very large number of charter schools and a high proportion of students who are attending charter schools, and that is not going to change. Several years ago, I was with the Secretary of Education at that time, and his goal was for 5 to 7% of the students across the nation to be in charter schools. Our number is more like 15 to 17%, somewhere in there. The purpose was not to create a separate system. The purpose was to create a place for innovation and experimentation without as many restrictions that many of the traditional schools have. And the whole idea of that was to experiment, try new things out, and then bring that back to the district for the benefit of all of the students. And frankly, I think we need to do a better job on this. I think both there needs to be better work between the charters and the district to really look at what is being done in a special and innovative way at the charter schools, schools and seeing how we can implement some of those practices in the district schools. As Mr. Barrera said, these proposed bills do not affect our current charter schools. They do not affect renewals. They do not affect growth. Many of our charter schools, in their petitions and their renewals, have a plan for growth of their charter schools. But as trustees, we are responsible for the education of all of the students in the district, both the districts in the traditional schools and in the charter schools. And sometimes people take very polarized positions, and I'll take another example, a very polarizing topic like gun control. There are people who believe on the one side that all guns should be taken away. There are other people that believe that any restriction of any type on guns is absolutely horrible because that will lead to all of the guns being taken away. So when we are in this situation, well, first let me just say, when I first came on the board, when we saw petitions for new charter schools, they filled out the forms, we looked them over, and we asked the general counsel at that time said, well, if they meet this and this and that requirement, then you must approve it. To which I asked, then why are we even voting? Why don't we just have them fill out the forms and send them to Sacramento or wherever? Why are we not using any discretion about what's going on within our own district? And so, you know, we're not just supposed to just sit here and not ask questions. And my question should be, is this an original idea? Is there something new or innovating that this school is going to offer? Do they have a good plan to succeed? And by opening this new charter school, will the benefit of it for the students of the district be greater than the potential harm to other schools from which some resources are taken away? So again, it doesn't affect our current schools. We have some wonderful charter schools in our district, which all of the board members agree and have visited. We have examples of Gompers and O'Farrell, which were already located in the neighborhoods in a very grassroots level. Another grassroots school was the San Diego Cooperative School. More recently, we have Kavod, a language immersion school for Hebrew. We have Health Sciences High. We have High Tech High. And each of these schools has provided something innovative and different that we didn't already offer in our schools. Now, we came upon a situation recently where there was a charter school petition, which we reviewed. We did not feel it was going to be successful on various levels, but mainly for the academic success of the students as well as the economic viability. And so we denied that petition of that new school. Subsequently, the state approved that petition. And then when we reviewed it in terms of renewal, they had failed miserably in terms of providing the adequate education. I firmly believe that if we are authorizing a charter school, that there should be some improvement on what we are already doing, not just meeting a very basic level of standards. So this is an example of what we're talking about, and I think all charter schools should be concerned about this. When you're operating a very good and successful charter school, you also should care about charter schools that are not doing as good of a job, and we've certainly had other cases where we've had to close down charter schools or where they actually closed themselves because they were not economically viable. We certainly want transparency and accountability. As far as public officials, all of the salaries and the entire budget is very carefully exposed. We don't always see what are the salaries of charter school officials at the top level, what is the marketing budget, and everything else. So there are 4 different bills that we are talking about here. But I think the key one, it improves charter school accountability by returning the authorization to the communities where they reside, because we are accountable to the voters, and if we do things that the voters of the local community want or don't want, we can be voted in or voted out, and as opposed to being decided in Sacramento or somewhere else. We're talking about we have another problem we've had is we've had charter schools located in Sandy Unified School District that are not that were authorized by other districts who were actually making money off of having schools in other districts over which we had no oversight and nothing to say about that. And I think just recently in the news there's some reports about corruption related to certain individuals on that. So I think this is overall a very reasonable list of legislation, and everyone has the right to lobby their legislators because it's being debated right now in the Senate and the Assembly, and those are the ones who make the decision. We are merely passing a resolution in support of this, but it's the state legislators that are going to decide. But I think it's time that we have reasonable guidelines in terms of how our charter schools operate for the benefit of the students that are there and for the benefit of the students that are there in the future.
Now that you've presented the item, we have some speakers, I understand. We're limited to 20 minutes total, 10 pro and 10 con, 10 minutes
Yes.
for and 10 minutes against. So,
Yes, that's
Marty, would you handle
for
that?
Board Bylaw 1025. So I'm going to call the speakers in support. If you would come to the line up here to the podium. There are 10 speakers in support: Renee Zambrano, Shane Parmalee, Carol Kim, Trace Simmons, Kyle Weinberg, Bill Freeman, Claire Crawford, Keisha Borden, Deb Beaver, and Christopher Wilson. Each person gets 1 minute.
Ms. Stoltz, I know there are a lot of people that spoke to sign up to speak for and against. How are you deciding who are the first 10 people?
By the time they signed up.
In the order of signing up?
Yes.
Okay.
And what's going to happen to the folks who don't get a chance to speak this segment?
They can speak at the end of the meeting.
All right. Can everybody hear? I'm having trouble.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. I'm here on behalf of a parent who could not make it to the meeting tonight, but this parent had a student at the former Thrive, the one charter school that was recently shut down, or their petition was not approved. So I'm going to go ahead and read the letter. Dear members of the San Diego Board of Education, while I cannot be there in person this evening when you vote on the moratorium on charter schools, expansion and straining and transparency and oversight in governance practice, therefore, I would like to let you know that I am highly in favor of local control on charter schools. My fourth grader attended Thrive Charter School last year. To her social, emotional, and psychological and education detriment, and consequently, I became a firm believer in the evils of the oversight. Please consider this letter my show of support to the moratorium and approve this resolution. This is from, thank you, from Deborah Zer and the public interest. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Hi, Shane Parmalee, Bell Middle School. I teach in an area that's surrounded by charter schools, and after the count in October to ascertain your state funding for the year, there's a flushing of kids out the door and they start enrolling at Bell. There's a slow bleed over the course of the year of the kids with behavior issues that they don't want out of O'Farrell and Keeler and a few others. And then right before testing in spring, there's another big dumping of kids. So we get 20 to 40 kids after enrollment over the course of the year that the local charter schools have decided they don't want to educate anymore. I know there's a lot of parents and family members here, I think, who have been misinformed by the charter school staff, and I hope they do read the assembly bills and the legislation in this resolution. This legislation won't impact any of the schools that are sitting in this room unless their staff is committing crimes or being shady with the money. If they're not, there's nothing to worry about. The Gomper families in the room should probably be concerned that KIPP is trying to open a school right down the street in the Jacobs Center, and that will impact your enrollment. So we need to stop targeting certain communities where the kids generate more money and letting all the charter schools flock there and just make money off them.
Next.
Good evening, board members. My name is Carol Kim, and I'm a parent of 2 students in the San Diego Unified School District. I'm here to urge you to vote in support of the charter school moratorium. The proliferation of these schools, which allow for nearly no accountability for voters, public taxpayers, and our communities, has negatively affected the health of our local neighborhood public schools. Here, locally, our district is constantly facing budget challenges and shortfalls. We're not able to invest adequately in our schools for a lot of reasons, but the money pulled out of our districts by charters is part of those reasons. To be clear, there are charters that are good. They are good actors. They exist. But there are many that are not. And until there is more funding for all the schools that currently exist in our neighborhoods, we shouldn't be opening any new ones, particularly if they lack transparency and accountability that all of us deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. The next.
So good evening. I'm Bill Freeman. I'm one of the board members from California Teachers Association. I'm here in support of this resolution. In fact, I think it is seriously past time for such. I have seen charters open up in most of our communities of colors. They have made promises to our parents that were not fulfilled. And as stated earlier, a lot of the kids are kicked out of those charters just before testing. Families are split up. If you have a child with an IEP, then that child is kicked out of that school. Recently, up around LA, I watched a charter that was approved by the county. Their goal was to teach guided reading. They had not a single teacher that was credentialed in California, yet it was open. Those kids will be deprived of an education and they will be dumped on a public school. To be clear, this is not closing existing charters, but I will tell you, if it's a bad actor, it should be closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I just want to start by addressing the families that are here in the room. By your very presence, I can see that you are deeply involved and care about your child's education. I want to be clear, though, this resolution does not have any provisions to shut down charter schools. This resolution does not call for the closure of any charter. This is a moratorium on new charters, not existing charters. So if your child currently attends a charter school that they love, that you love, this moratorium does nothing to change that. I fully understand that every school does not meet the needs of every student. There is a place for charters. This resolution simply gives local school districts the ability to consider all factors when approving an initial charter application, which is what they have been elected, democratically elected to do, to make responsible decisions that maintain the fiscal health of the district. At least 9 other districts have passed similar resolutions, and more are being passed every day because it just makes sense. I urge you to support this resolution.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Christopher Rice Wilson. I'm a parent of 2 young girls who attend a public charter school in San Diego Unified School District. In addition to the instability caused by the influx and unchecked growth of charter schools within our public school system, there is a lack of transparency, accountability, and sometimes basic safety at some of these schools. The outdated laws and disjointed approval process for charter schools has caused irreparable harm to our students and to our community. This moratorium and the other bills moving through the Assembly will give the state of California and our locally elected representatives an opportunity to evaluate, analyze, gather public input, conduct oversight, and create solutions that give all students and their guardians an opportunity to grow, learn, and thrive in an educational environment of peace, harmony, justice, and equality with transparency and accountability to the people who are served by the charter school system.
Thank you.
Please support this resolution.
Thank you.
Hi, Claire Crawford with In the Public Interest. As you're aware, research that we carried out last year in conjunction with San Diego Unified School District found that the district was incurring $66 million in annual costs due to the explosive growth of charter schools. These are costs that are borne by students in district schools through cuts the district has to make to stay out of county intervention. At the same time, under current state law, charters are not required to provide a better education or better academic outcomes than what already exists in the district. In fact, by CCSA's own data, the California Charter Schools Association finds that San Diego Unified has better academic outcomes for all students, for English learners, for Latino students, for African American students, for socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and for students with disabilities than the charter schools in our region. So if that's the case, it's time for some needed reflection on the law. AB 1507, for example, it's here, it's being proposed because of something we may have seen in the San Diego Union Tribune today, where two charter schools that were approved by Acton Agua Dulce and Dehesa have 11 people that are indicted for fraud.
Thank you. Next.
Kyle Weinberg, Bell Middle School. When Epiphany Charter School shut down at the middle of the school year last year, parents of 285 students had to scramble to find new schools to enroll their children in. Many of these students eventually made their way to Bell Middle, where we were unprepared and lacking resources to accommodate the sudden influx. Special education case managers were over the caseload cap, and we were not able to provide adequate support for students with disabilities. General education classes were over the class size cap until an additional teacher was assigned 6 weeks into the school year. The disruption in our district schools and the lives of families wreaked by unethical practices at Epiphany Charter is an example of what happens when we trust the well-being of students to organizations that are not sufficiently regulated. I urge the board to pass the resolution supporting the bills in the legislature, particularly AB 1506, which would cap charters at their current levels. This would allow districts to filter out charter schools that are not meeting the needs of students and continue to authorize charters that are committed to doing the right thing for families and their employees.
Thank you. Next.
Trey Simmons, Hancock Elementary School. For me, bottom line, local control. We should be deciding what's best for the students in San Diego, whether you're currently in a public school or a charter school. That new charter school could pop up across the street from your current charter school, draw your students away, and then end up closing up because they're not regulated, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Coming from other districts, having the people in Sacramento decide what's best for us. Local control. We know where our kids are, what they need. We keep our current charter schools open. It's not closing anything down. It just seems to make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now the other group.
Yes, I should also note that anyone who doesn't get called to speak during their time, your name will be noted in the public record that you supported or opposed this item on the agenda. So, yes, again, we're going with Board Bylaw 1025, which limits public testimony to 10 minutes per side. So we've heard 10 minutes of support. Now we will hear 10 minutes of opposition. The names are being called in order of the way that people signed up. Annette Scholl-Bermel, if you would please come and form a line. Megan Foster, Rachel Hayward, Mary Lacey, Julian Flores, Sarah Christensen, Christy Tigeron, Leila Poblit, Christopher Poblit, and Eduardo Meza.
I want to present this letter from all charter leaders. It's just begging you to please vote no. My name is Eduardo, and I'm not only a constituent of your district, but a charter school supporter and educator. I'm here today to express my discontent with the board's proposed resolution calling on a moratorium of charter schools under the guise of strengthening apparent transparency and oversight. I want to also highlight that supposed reason for the need for this resolution doesn't come from a group of concerned parents wishing for their children to have a chance at a quality education. It's rooted from a union, CTA, fearful of the success of charters and how that impacts their influence and footprint. I appreciate and know how difficult your job is. This issue should not be about charter school students. It shouldn't be about San Diego Unified School District students or students in San Diego or California. We are educators and we know better and we should act better. This should not be about politics. We should lead by example and be an example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, My name is Megan Foster. I'm the parent of twins who attend Museum School Charter School. I just want to talk about why choice is so important for a lot of kids. I have twins. One is on an IEP with hearing loss and other issues, who's received remarkable care and all of the services that she could ever require because she's at a small school that's able to manage what she needs. My other son, who was thrown out of preschool because he wouldn't nap, also had a rough time and needed some special handling. Today, I have two kids who are making straight A's as of Friday, who are confident and happy, and their school is wonderful. And some parents need the flexibility of different schools to look at, and I want that as we're going to our high school years now. Right now, I've got 12 schools on my list I want to look at. We need the choice. We need the flexibility. Your local school isn't always the best place for your children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Rochelle Hayward, and I'm here as the parent of an IEP student at the San Diego Cooperative Charter School. As was just stated, choice is so important for us. My son started off at a public school, and it was perfect for my older son, but it did not work for him. And in the last 2 years, I've seen him flourish and just grow as a child. So please, make sure that we can have those opportunities for that choice and to ensure that this is an opportunity going forward.
Hello, I'm the Parent Union President here on behalf of us parents. And while it was reported that you guys are the outliers in closing the achievement gap, which I refer to as the access and opportunity gap, the facts are from CDE, CASP, and the California Dashboard, even the Credo Stanford report, that 80% of Black students in California are not math proficient at grade level. 68% of Black students cannot read or write at grade level. And 7 out of 8 of those students are in district-run schools. So there is a problem with the direct, what people call achievement gap, which is actually the access and opportunity gap. Because what happens to them pre-K through 12 directly impacts them for the rest of their life. And we talk about innovation. Well, the attack against choice is the attack against the innovation in bridging that gap. It's the attack against that.
Thank you. Next. Thank you. Ms. Maxey.
Good afternoon, Board and Superintendent. I am speaking on behalf of the African American Association of Educators. We demand that the resolution in this matter calling for the moratorium on charter school expansion be pulled from today's consent calendar. Consent calendar items not only eliminate the opportunity for public discussion and input, it also hides from the public your vote, which openly shows each board member's position on a matter. Consent calendar items generally fall under the category as business as usual, and this resolution is anything but business as usual. This resolution pushed through on the consent calendar is sneaky and extremely disrespectful to the community. Moving forward on this today is actually premature. Our governor and our state superintendent have formed a commission that has been charged to compile a report addressing these issues. It comes out in July. Let's wait for it.
Thank you.
Lachey Collins, and I'm speaking on behalf of Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber. She hasn't issued an official statement. However, she is opposed to this resolution and the Assembly bills. She has asked that you pull this item from the consent agenda. Education is a core value for our Californians. But if you go back and listen to her testimony at the hearings back in April and also May, then you'll get a better understanding of her overall stance. The governor has created a 11-member charter task force to look at charter school financing, chartering, and authorization throughout the state of California to determine what to do, if anything, in the areas identified in the Assembly bills and more. Therefore, this resolution is one that is premature. The report is due to come out during the month of July, and having this item on the board consent agenda is not a transparent move to this community. Any item that has a lot of controversy and opposition should not be listed on the consent file and should be brought to the community by way of a discussed item agenda and individual board vote. The individual board vote would allow for the community to know exactly where everyone really stands with their resolution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next.
The bylaws.
You finish reading it. Finish it from here. Right here. There you go.
I'm Ellen Nash, the chair of the San Diego chapter of BAPAC, also the associate pastor at Faith Tabernacle, Church of God in Christ, and also a lifelong resident of San Diego and District 4. To continue reading this, constituents of the 79th District, where I serve as an ADEM of the 79th, are highly concerned about how this will impact their children. There is very little in the resolution and the legislation that talks about kids. When making decisions like this, we must maintain the understanding that our children are at the center of the message. In this case, it doesn't appear that way. The most important things we should be talking about is student performance, because this is what is important in the district. There are a lot of issues that we need to address. Moving forward with this resolution will cause concern for our charter school, as they were not involved in the discussion. Once again, this resolution is premature and the issues are complex and deeper. I strongly agree that you are unable to make this decision in the absence of a report that tells us what's actually going on in our charter schools. This is on behalf of Assembly Member Dr. Shirley Weber. Pull the item from the board consent agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Teresa, and I have 2 honor roll students at Gompers Preparatory Academy. Before 2014, Gompers was a failing school. There were gang violence. Police had to be present due to the constant fights on campus. The students had low test scores, and Gompers had an extremely low graduation rate. Suspension rates were high. If it were not for the parents and a strong leadership team, along with Director Riverall, who fought for Gompers to become a charter school, all of this would continue happening. The parents went door to door having petitions signed to make it a charter and keep the union out. It was the parents who showed up at San Diego Unified School District Board meeting pleading for GPA to become a charter school. We do not want it to go back to what it was when it was part of the San Diego Unified School District. Please don't take that dream away from our children, the dream that we all have for them to be able to go to a university. Please do not approve the resolution in the matter of calling for moratorium on charter expansions and strengthening transparency and overnight in governance practice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was only 8 speakers. Did you want me to call the next 2? Anushka Frank and Amber Henry. Not here. Daniel Nielsen, Erica Bradley. Not here. Rachel Pfister, Marisa Connell. Not here. Brandy Perkins, Jim Hernandez.
Hi, my name's Brandy Perkis. I have a 7-year-old son who has an IEP. We've been in the San Diego Unified School District since the infant toddler program. We've had some amazing teachers. Unfortunately, last year we were in our local public school. He has an IEP. We had to go through due process to actually get it implemented. I lost count of how many times I went to the school to pick him up and they didn't know where he was. One time he was actually locked in a closet. We switched this year to Linda Vista Charter Co-op. He is thriving. I can't tell you the difference in this child. His team knows him better, I think, sometimes than I know him myself. They care about him, and they are doing everything they can. We need, as parents, a choice of where our kids are going to thrive. And we need to be working together to get equality in funding for both public and charter schools and not fighting against each other.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm here speaking on behalf of AAAE as well as my 4-year-old grandson. Charter schools were created over 25 years ago, and they were expected to create more flexibility and innovation while infusing new ideas and creativity into traditional public schools. Instead, what we see is fighting and disconnect between the public schools and the charter school system. It's apparent that San Diego Unified School District does not accept charter schools as their partners, although they're authorized by the board. As Margaret Fortune stated in an article titled, How California Legislation Targets Public Charter Schools Show That Blue States Can Oppress Black People Too. If these resolutions and bills pass, Black parents will no longer be able to choose where their children will go to school. They will be forced to send their children to the district-run public system, which has an alarmingly poor track record. If passed, this will also have a devastating impact on California's Black community for generations to come. Why not allow the group that's already charged with looking at these charter schools do what their job is to do? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Hernandez. I'm here on behalf of the Charter School of San Diego. We've been a charter school in San Diego for 25 years. Part of that innovation you talked about. And you are right. In some cases, there are great schools. And some of the bills being proposed are restrictive to those some cases that are having great success, including their success as a recent Malcolm Baldrige Award winner for taking great care of kids. The San Diego Charter School, on average, over the last 3 years, has returned 560 students back to the school district, the normal system, worth $7.1 million. Although the bills appear to have no effect, they will have effect, for example, on some of our locations that you approved. So this restriction is going to affect what I say is going to hurt kids that are challenged. More than half of our kids come with challenges and come from the school district, and in many cases we return them back. If you've been to a graduation or spoken to the students that go there, where I recently saw 3 kids, you shouldn't restrict the successful schools like the San Diego Charter School to hurt those kids. Thank you.
Thank you. And for those speakers who did not get a chance to speak at the end of the meeting, you will have your opportunity if you wish to speak. And now I'd like to hear from any other board member.
Yeah, I just want to briefly actually thank President Whitehurst Payne, who did pull this item from the consent agenda so we can have this discussion and so we can have an individual vote. President Whitehurst Payne already did that. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything? No other? I'd like to say some things because I have not weighed in on this matter. I was a little bit troubled because I've said this. I think this is premature. I believe that we have. I believe that we have representatives on this commission, this blue ribbon panel or whatever's going on at the state level, and they need the opportunity to do their work without others getting involved in it. Let them dig at the facts and find out what's going on. I realize that it's also created a lot of confusion because a few weeks ago, one of the charter principals called me and said they're trying to do away with my school and on and on and on and on, and I couldn't figure out what the principal was talking about because it is not directed towards existing charters, but the noise that had gotten out there had people who already have charters confused, and there are some charters doing stellar work, outstanding work, as well as there are some regular schools that are doing outstanding work. And while I support the state taking a look at what's going on to figure out what's the best way to move forward, that's why we have a representative on that commission to really look at it, the bigger picture for the state. and you're looking at someone who understands the whole piece of why charters were created, because as I've said many times, we wrote a charter, it's still on the books. So I understand the logistics of going into it and why they were created. I also recognize, on the other hand, we've had some difficulties here with not being able to do the nuances that we need to, and coming down to having to ultimately close some charters down. But I think, given the fact that we already have a state Blue Ribbon Commission that's taken a look at it, we don't need to weigh in on it. Let them do their jobs. And then, having said that, I am abstaining from voting for this because I don't think it's time for us to weigh in on this. And for those of you who want to continue, let us vote or not vote. Yes, other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment because, obviously on the board, we are concerned with all students in district schools and charter schools that they do well. I certainly understand that there are people that have said they had their kids in district schools, they were not being well served, and they did better in the charter school, and I don't doubt that that has been the case sometimes. But I don't think that anybody who was speaking really objected to the issue of local control. I don't think anybody speaking objected to a very careful assessment of new charters, taking all kinds of factors into consideration. But what I heard over and over is, let us keep our choice. Let us keep our choice. We should have the right to send our kids to school where we want to send them. And I believe that in this district, there is a lot of choice for parents. First of all, we have been recognized nationally within the district schools as having one of the most expansive choice programs where children can apply to attend a school in almost anywhere in the district, depending on space availability. That's part of the choice program. The other factor is that we have approximately, I believe it's about 47 charter schools in the district to which our constituents are also able to apply. So there's a vast amount of choice, and nothing in any of this resolution takes anything away from that. Now, the other thing in terms of the commission, which President Whitehurst-Payne was referring to, we have two branches of government, three actually, but I'm talking about two, which is the executive and the legislative branch. The governor has appointed a committee to help him decide how he is going to deal with the charter school issue. The Assembly and the Senate are not waiting to find out how the governor is deciding to deal with it. They are exploring the issue themselves, and they have the right to make policy and pass legislation. If they do pass it, then they will pass it on to the governor, and the governor can certainly rely on his commission to determine whether he wants to sign these bills, or sign some of them, all of them, or veto all of them. That is really up to him. But I do have heard very clearly about the importance of maintaining choice. And I don't believe that any parent who is sitting here now who has their child in a charter school is going to lose that choice option.
Thank you, Mr. Vice.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of reflect on the resolution. I'd appreciate your patience here as I go through and deliberate on a variety of different points, because there's a lot of things in this resolution. First of all, when I'm dealing with reading this, I've read it over many times over the last week. One of the things that I reflect on my service on the Board of Education is that time and time again, I have evaluated charter schools on a case-by-case basis. Many times, I voted to authorize new charters, and many times I have reauthorized high-performing charter schools that are doing a good job for children and students. A lot of charter schools have helped us as a district to develop new and innovative ways to support student learning. I've also voted no on some charter renewals where the students are not being served. And a lot of times, that's been with the blessing and the support of the California Charter School Association. Because CCSA wants to support quality schools. And if there's a school, even if it's a charter school, that's not doing a good job for children, then they don't want that charter to exist anymore either. And we've done that on the board. That's one of the reasons why we have so many charter schools in San Diego. And that's why I believe almost all those charter schools are doing a phenomenal job. If this resolution passes, though, I think that there's some misunderstanding. I was reading a lot. It's not shut down any charter schools in San Diego. Also, another misunderstanding is that this resolution does not prevent existing charter schools in San Diego from being renewed. So let me be clear. All the charter schools in San Diego are going to continue to operate and service students. The other parts of this analysis and the resolution that I think were interesting are, I like to look at how our charter schools in San Diego serving our students. And some of the information in the resolution talked about a study in 2018 by Columbia and Florida about charter schools enrollment with special ed across the country. Some of the data and analysis may affect or reflect on the analysis of charter school students across the state. But I want to know how are charter schools doing in San Diego, because that's what we're addressing. And I believe that while many charter schools in San Diego have very high special education enrollment percentages, I believe that there's a little variance from maybe the national trend there. On the next item on fiscal shortfall, this is a study conducted by In the Public Interest, which specifically did an analysis and determined that because of the impact, the loss of the economies of scale, that we are hit with about a $66 million shortfall financially every year in San Diego Unified District schools. However, I know that there's been some debate on the analysis and the conclusions of that, but I believe that it's irrefutable that when you take students out of a district neighborhood school, that the amount of funding that comes to the district is reduced. And that's, so we can debate on how much of an impact, but the fact that there's a fiscal impact is clear. One of the things that I do want to echo from one of the speakers was that this, unfortunately, right now in public education, I believe that there are table scraps. And so public district schools and charter schools are now fighting over those monies, over those resources, because we all want the best for our students. We all need to make sure that no matter what happens tonight, that we all are united as one in fighting together in Sacramento, a blue state, for more public education funding for all of our schools and all of our students. That brings me to the next issue addressed in the resolution, transparency and accountability, how millions of dollars are being spent. You can have anybody could submit a public records request to try to learn how San Diego Unified School District spends money. I thought that that was very interesting that you cannot do that with some charter schools. That's one of the things that I think is interesting, and I wrote this down, is that I think it's kind of difficult to really understand how money is spent in any government entity. And it's indicative of budgets for most government agencies and any school district, whether it's a public or a charter, because budgets are not simple profit and loss statements like in the private sector. So it is very difficult. And that's why sometimes different groups of organizations might have different opinions about where we're spending our money. But we need to make sure that we have open books, whether we're a public district or a charter school. So to that extent, I support that. In fact, I believe CCSA even supported a bill last year that I'll talk about in a moment. I believe that's SB 126, which did open up charter schools to Brownettes. And that was supported by the charter school community as represented by the entity CCSA. With regard to local control, I thought this was kind of interesting because the California State Board of Education is the entity that ultimately voted not to renew the Thrive Charter School in San Diego. Finally, on the idea of a moratorium. Now, this idea, I think, is very interesting because part of the idea is to kind of hit the pause button on new charters, which would preserve all of the about 50 charter schools in San Diego. All that it says is that we need to pause it for a reflection on how our charter schools doing. What are charter schools doing that is good and effective, and how do we continue to replicate it? And why are there a couple charter schools that opened up, did not service students, and were shut down or closed in the middle of the year? How do we prevent those things from happening in the future? And I think part of this need to reflect on this 1992 charter school law and figure out how do we fix it to make it better. I don't think that the impetus or the momentum of this resolution or the intent of the governor is to basically reflect and end charter schools. I think it's to reflect and finally say, let's go back to the 1992 charter school law and see how do we make it better for all of the students that are affected in the district schools or the charter schools. Personally, I believe that in place of a moratorium, we ought to just be more vigilant at evaluating new charters on a case-by-case basis. Now let's get into the specifics. AB 1505, which would allow local boards to consider other impacts to their community and their students and their budgets when deciding whether or not to open up new charters. I believe that's relatively reasonable. I think it's reasonable to allow a local school board to evaluate a variety of different factors in determining whether or not to authorize a new charter school. AB 1506, caps on growth of privately managed charter schools. I think that there's some analysis in there that's really important because we want to make sure that all charter schools are in the domain of public and that there aren't private management companies, because I believe that was the source of several indictments that came down today from the Dehesa School District and some others. There were several indictments very concerning about how they were, I believe that they're alleged to have funneled massive amounts of money to their own private companies, and that's very concerning to me. The next item is AB 1507, where local authorizers need to, that if you have a charter school in Reno or Sacramento or LA, it shouldn't be authorized by San Diego Unified School Board. That if there's a charter school that wants to open up and service students in San Diego, they need to come to the San Diego School Board to be authorized, so that we also have the ability to oversee, to make sure that they're serving the students. And so I think that's a completely reasonable thing to advocate for. SB 756, I just talked about that. That's the moratorium. And then it gets into, there are three things that this resolution is asking or calling for us to do, which would just simply require us to comply with current existing law. First, to inform families of their rights according to the California state charter laws. Well, that's just letting them know that they have rights in existing law. It doesn't change the law. Second, SB 126, compliance of the Brown Act. That just says that we're going to comply with the state law on the Brown Act for charters. That seems reasonable to me. And then the third one is with regard to employees' rights to organize and form a union. And all that statement in the resolution says is that we're going to follow the law. That if there are a group of employees that would like to explore the idea of organizing the teachers or employees at their charter school, then we will comply with the law as outlined with the EERA. And so the one thing that I do want to end on is the fact that we have many amazing charter schools in San Diego that I will continue to support 100%, because they are serving the students and the community. They're providing choice for lots of parents. Magnolia Science Academy, Preuss, High Tech High, Civic E3, Gompers, O'Farrell, Cavode, Linda Vista San Diego Cooperative Charter School, Einstein Academy, Charter School of San Diego, and many, many, many others that are really doing a great job. Those parents, students, and schools are absolutely untouched by this resolution. And that's, I think, where there's a big misunderstanding, because this resolution does absolutely nothing to impede or impair existing charter schools. And for these reasons, I will be supporting the resolution tonight because I believe most of these items are very reasonable. Thank you.
Please, did you want to say something else? Please vote. And that passes 3-0 with one abstention. Yours truly. Let us move on to, thank you all who came out to that item, for that item. F5, please. A motion?
I'll move F5, and maybe if we give these folks a chance to clear out.
You want to take a...
Just open the front door. People are too slow on it.
We're at F5. Thank you. Thank you for leaving quietly. Item F5. I need a motion on that one.
Yeah, I move the item.
Second.
And if I could just real quickly, well, yeah, this is an item. Do we have the folks from the University Heights community here tonight, Kristen? Oh, perfect. Yeah, if you guys could come up, that would be great. As we know, we've been working closely with our partners from the community in University Heights on a variety of issues, thinking about the whole education center complex, but particularly the work to save and repurpose Annex 1 and Annex 2 and some of the other areas. And the community was just recently awarded for your advocacy efforts in working with us. And so this is a motion to recognize your efforts. And I think you'd like to speak to it. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera, and thank you to the entire board and staff for your ongoing support of preservation and adaptive reuse of Annex 1 and Annex 2 to benefit the educational needs of San Diego neighborhoods. We are also very grateful to work with the board and the district on other possible joint uses of the Ed Center site to include possible park space, meeting space, library, pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and signage to commemorate the site's significant heritage as the original site of San Diego State University. So thank you again for this recognition. We greatly appreciate it and look forward to continuing to work with the district on this exciting opportunity to benefit all of us. And we look forward to the workshop in June.
Thank you.
We'll get to the proclamation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Is this a vote? We need to vote on this, yes, we need to vote on it. Please vote.
Vote on the
Resolution for
okay.
The proclamation, yes.
Proclamation. I don't know if we voted on
That
proclamation.
passes 4-0. Thank you. And now, let us move on to item G1, the District English Learner Advisory Committee, the DLAC, the semi-annual update to the board.
Good evening. My name is Lalia, and I am the DLAC chair. It will be my honor to present in front of you today. So I'm going to start with some of the district highlights. So if you can see, we have about 331 students who have been qualified for the California State Seal of Biliteracy. On another hand, we have about this, for 2018, we have about 722 who were qualified for San Diego Unified School District. Now, what's the difference between the two? Of course, the state has higher standards than the district. We have also the reclassification data. We have an increase comparing to 2017, 2018, and this year, 2018, 2019. We have also a decrease in the number of the long-term English learners. So every year I stand before you expressing my worry and unsatisfaction in some of the services that are provided to the English learners. But this year, today, what I want to do is I want to share also the report that was recently released about how is our district serving the English learners. So the report basically reveals a very concerning and alarming truth. So there is 4 areas. The English learners in San Diego Unified School District are not getting the support needed. And I'm going to go through the details. The report also reveals that the teachers are also not getting the support needed to teach the English learners. The parents are not encouraged to be part of their children's education. And the last part, which is the misspending of the money. For that, the DLAC, before starting my presentation, the DLAC is asking to have series of meetings where board members, district staff, and DLAC officers meet to carefully study the report. The report must be considered as a learning opportunity and a turning point in teaching English learners in our district. So the first concern is, I didn't include all what the report says, but it's in the paper that I just gave it to Marty. So this is what the report said. Core ELD materials are not based on the California English language development standards adopted by the California State Board of Education in November 2012. The report also says that the English learners are not receiving comprehensive and consistent designated ELD instruction as part of the core program. Additionally, the English learners at some schools that I'm not going to mention the names, who are enrolled in courses titled ELD 1-2, ELD 3-4, ELD 5-6, or academic language development are not receiving consistent, comprehensive designated ELD construction. The report also says that San Diego Unified School District are not consistently receiving academic instruction with sufficient strategies and differentiation to ensure English learners meet the content and performance standards for their respective grade levels. In addition, some schools have not provided documentation that they have a process for monitoring the progress of English learners, including the long-term English learners and the student at risk of becoming a long-term English learners. And for that, the DLAC recommend the Board of Education and the Superintendent to establish a consistent accountability system to ensure that every English learner from K to 12 is receiving a daily ELD instruction while holding all the English learners students to the same high expectation outlined in the Common Core State Standards. The DLAC is also asking the district to create an ELD accountability system to make sure that the ELD instruction is taking place and to monitor the situation to ensure that all schools are providing daily ELD. These are services our students are entitled to receive under the law. On another hand, the report talked about the teachers, the reclassification. So this is what the report said. A review of document demonstrate that the reclassification criteria of San Diego Unified School District do not meet the above requirement. In particular, the teacher evaluation criteria do not include objective guidelines for teacher to use to determine if a student meets RFEB, which means reclassified criteria. In addition, San Diego Unified School District does not adequately provide opportunities for parent opinion, consultation, and involvement during the reclassification process prior to the final reclassification decision. For that, the DLAC is asking to review the reclassification criteria. The most important consideration for our district should not be only the speed of reclassification, but whether reclassified students are well prepared, as we believe that a reclassification must ensure that students have attained the necessary English language skills to compete on an even playing field with their peers. In the past, along with the CELT criteria, teachers' recommendation, the state required a certain standards to be met on the California standard tests of English language art before a student could be reclassified. When the CST went away during 2014-2015, the state gave the district the flexibility to set their own criteria. So the DLAC is asking to re-evaluate the reclassification criteria for our English learners. Another area that was mentioned also in the report, and it's in the paper, so on the teachers. San Diego Unified School District has not provided sufficient support for site administrators to monitor the English learner strategies learned in PD to ensure they are implemented with consistency and fidelity. Additionally, at some schools, there was not sufficient evidence to substantiate the provision of EL-specific PD of sufficient intensity and duration to have a positive and lasting impact on teachers' performance in the classroom. So the DLAC recommend that each school engage in a need assessment to determine what is needed to support teachers, to ensure they are providing explicit instruction and model to support the various groups of students within the classrooms, including the English learners. We recommend this action to be followed up with a system to ensure the teacher training is implemented in each classroom. Over the years, veteran ELSTs, now known as English learners, instructional resource teachers, have developed deep layers of expertise to directly support and serve the English learners in our district. Their expertise, I think, is now needed at each site on a frequent basis, if not daily. I want also to share with you another worry that was also mentioned in the report, which is the lack of parents' involvement. As you can see, we have a table from 2013-14 to 2018-19. The number of the functioning ELACs decreased from 107 to 45 this year. And for the ELACs who are delegated to the SSC, we started with 16 and we are also at 16. So if we want to trace back what has happened over the years, it's the site support. So in the past, the ELSTs, they were per site and they played a big role in involving the parents of English learners in ELAC and DLACs. DLAC recommends the district to create an EL site position to support the English learners and their parents. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank you for this report. As a board, you've given us a lot to consider.
You do have some speakers. 3 speakers.
Just a second. I've communicated to the superintendent our expectation that we will receive a full response to each of these issues. And I'd like the board secretary to agendize the conversation for this fall. But before then, we have 3 speakers on this topic, and I'd like to hear from them now. Thank you.
Yes, we have Anna Bonatati, Mike Bonatati, and Gabriela Contreras. Ms. Ciroglio, I'm sorry for not pronouncing your name correctly.
Hello again. So the district's top leadership philosophy of good instruction that would eliminate the need for specialized support is at the root of this issue. The former leadership left in protest of this approach. Question, how does the philosophy meet the legally mandated rights of ELs? It doesn't. Last year's DLAC presentation recommended the very same things that this presentation does, establishing a consistent accountability system to ensure that all ELs in every school are receiving designated ELD. The SIFE committee and the PSRO also made a similar request, which you should have received back in 2017. The state found that these things are not being done. Question, why is the district ignoring DLAC, parents, experienced teachers, and the state with regards to ELs? Because of the deficiencies and fraudulent use of Title III funds, the district may need to repay $5 million. Question, how will the district do this? By not giving teachers their cost of living increase? It's been 4 years under this new model. The district is out of compliance and is in a position to lose money. At what point does the board take at what point do you, the board, take responsibility ensuring that the rights of English learning students are protected? I've got copies for you of the PSRO's recommendations through the SIFE committee that they still have not met with the district to go over how to handle and monitor this very fragile population. This is 5 years almost going on. What are you going to do? When are you going to step up and help us help these kids? We've had meeting after meeting. You've heard us we've been in front of you time and time again. Nothing is changing. $5 million fraudulently spent. How is that okay? I wish you could respond to me, respond to the kids, respond to the parents, so many teachers that care, really care. And it's such a loss. It's such a loss.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Honorable Board of Trustees. So I'm here once again touching base with you, our team, to let you know that indeed many ELACs are not functioning. Indeed, the VLAC meetings are not that well attended on behalf of parents. And I continue to hear from all these families that I connect with in different venues like the CAC, like different ELACs at different sites. There is a lot to do in regards of connecting again, reconnecting with the communities. Parents are lost, and not only we can attest to the ELACs are functioning, but I would even question how functional are those ELACs. So we may see a 39 or 45 number there, but you have to question how functional those ELACs are. So I'm here to let you know that even if you go over the DLAC minutes that take place, you will see that there's a lot of substance missing there. So I would strongly encourage the staff and the trustees and all the leadership team to reconnect with the community, because once again, they're lost, or we are lost, I should say. And I would attest on this, like I said, go review the DLAC minutes that we have. And my last comment would be, keep in mind that we've been asking for an ELL master plan for years. If we had a plan where we can roll out for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, having a short and medium and long-term goal, we wouldn't be stuck recreating the wheel every single summer when we're learning if we're going to have resource teachers on site, or if they're going to go to the central office, if all is expanding or all is decreasing their staff. We really need to see ELLs being treated as a priority and connecting this with the funding that the district is receiving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I'm just a regular guy that sits back here every time my wife comes up and stands before you people. She says the very same thing every time for the past 4 years. You've all been handed a report, a state report about what goes on with English learning program. None of the requirements are being met. Nobody pays any attention. One person out of all of you responded to my wife by email. These are kids that can barely speak English. They're thrust into the school system. They're scared. Their parents don't know what to do. They know less English than they do. They have absolutely no support. They don't know where to turn. They can barely survive in San Diego, living, breathing, working, and doing what they're doing with more than one child. They're being bounced around. No one's paying attention to what these kids need. $5 million was allocated for this program. Has been wasted. Tablecloths and party supplies. $2,600 for party supplies being spent with money that's designated for English learners to learn English to survive in our school system. So, please read your report. Please respond. Look why you joined the school board and what you really try to do and what you're trying to achieve. Tonight, when you read this report, say, what can I do to make this happen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to support President Whitehurst Payne, your request that the superintendent provides a response, to the items in the state report. But I think as, or maybe more importantly than that, I think Lali Ali's suggestion that we have regular forums where we have conversations around these issues are important. I do think it is very important that in those conversations we keep our focus on what our overall goal is, and that is the achievement of students. And so I think when Lali Ali began your presentation by talking about increases in the number of students being reclassified, decreases in the number of long-term English learners, numbers around students qualifying for seal of biliteracy, those are very important goals that we need to keep our focus on. How we get there is what we need to be discussing, but we need to be discussing not what strategy somebody prefers or doesn't prefer, but are those strategies moving us in the right direction, moving our students in the right direction? And so I support, the idea of these regular dialogues. Thank you.
Anybody else? Dr. Evans?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate what Lalia has done here in her report, and we will wait to see what the superintendent's staff respond to. I know that one thing that always comes up is about the former program with the ELSTs and who are working directly with students. The problem I recall is that they're working with by nature of the limited number of them and the thousands of students in the district, that they were working with a very limited number of students. We had to see how to make it more spread further across the district. I think another measure that we can always look at what are the criteria to reclassify, because we want to make sure that when someone is reclassified, they really are proficient in English and ready to move forward. We know before that when we have reclassified people, we have seen results, because when we have seen on the standardized tests and in other measures too, graduation, everything else, that our reclassified students performed better than our native speakers, that says something about the process. But we need to keep looking at that, and I look forward to finding out the answers to all these issues that are brought up in the report.
Okay. Just for your information, this year it was a review from the state. Is that an annual process?
Yes.
Okay, and we've got a list of things that the district is right now working on with.
We have time to respond to.
Okay, so we will be responding to that list, and that report must go back to the state.
Yes.
And then we will have in the fall, you will go ahead and discuss it in a public setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Once it's complete.
Go over what's going on.
Absolutely.
And address
Once
all
it's
these
complete.
concerns. Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you for that report.
Just a couple quick. I just want to thank Lali for being the chair of the DLAC. I know you've been working on DLAC for years and years and years. I also want to thank Anna Bonatati for her advocacy and fighting to make sure that we're focusing our energies and resources on the students. But I believe what Trustee Barrera had mentioned was that over the last several years, we've actually realized that a growth or increase in the number of students that are being reclassified. And Trustee John Lee Evans had mentioned that what we are finding out through graduation rates and other success metrics is that those students that we've reclassified at greater numbers over the last couple of years are actually outperforming a lot of the other subgroups that you would think would have higher graduation rates or higher performance rates on state testing in math and English. I do look forward to having an update to the board in the fall, later on in the fall, especially looking at that Title III money with the $5 million that was brought forward, I believe, by Anna and Mike Bonatati. So let's look into this stuff. Let's find out what are we doing that's working, and let's continue to circle back and focus and reflect on what can we do better. Thank you.
Dr. Whitehurst-Payne, may I correct something? I think you asked me if it happens yearly. It's every 4 years when virtual check-in every 2 years. So I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, good. So this hasn't occurred in the last 4 years. This is the first time since I've been on this board that we've gotten a report from the state, and we will be addressing them directly as well as the community here. Thank you for that correction. Let us move now to item G2.
Move for approval.
I'll move item G2 and G3.
Okay, thank you. Second on it?
Okay, second.
Both
Okay.
items.
Both items?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have Dr. Evans moving it and Mr. Beisler seconding G2 and G3. No discussion, no speakers on it? Okay, please vote on it. Thank you, that passes 4-0. And now let us move to item H1, an item we've all been waiting for. An update on the impact of the governor's May revise, as they call it, to the 2019-2020 district budget proposal.
Thank you, President Whitehurst-Payne. This is an update, as you said, on the governor's May revise and the budget proposal. The governor puts out a budget in January, then in May there's a revise, and we want to give you an update today on what that impact is to our district. I want to stress this is not the final budget. The final budget adoption comes in June, but we always like to have this point to check in and look at our staff's preliminary analysis of this proposal, and we have our Chief Business Officer, Dr. Greg Ottinger, to present that.
Thank you, Superintendent Martin, President Whitehurst-Payne, Vice President Dr. Evans, members of the board, Superintendent. On behalf of the finance and government relations teams who worked to put this together, we thank you for the opportunity to discuss the governor's proposed budget, which, as you know, he revised earlier in May. This evening, we will summarize the state-level proposal and provide additional available details to potential local impacts. To begin, we will go ahead and start with a high-level review of the state budget timeline and process. This is just to center ourselves. As we see, we are in the midst of the State Assembly and the Senate reviewing what the governor has released earlier in May. They're under significant discussions in Sacramento at the moment, and we are expecting by June 15th the legislature will pass, because they're required to, a balanced budget, and by June 30th the governor will sign the budget package and could issue significant vetoes. He does have the line item veto power. So overall, what we're seeing is a strong foundation with some intensified risks. This is from the governor's office, paying down unfunded retirement liabilities. Some of the allocations that we're starting to see in May, as opposed to necessarily in January, where we saw some shifts and changes with COLA and also with special education. We're also seeing some one-time allocations with STRS, and those have continued. So we first want to look at a multi-year outlook. So here's a depiction of key items and how they were projected in January versus what we were seeing in May. You'll notice that the governor has stayed the course in most of these areas with some additional emphasis in special education. You will notice that the COLA, or the cost of living adjustment, subsequently has reduced from 3.46% to 3.26%, and there is some adjustments in the upward direction to the Prop 98. A little bit more on that, and in full transparency and disclosure to the board, we all know that this is Governor Newsom's first budget, at least as the governor, and we're bringing forward a little bit more context and conversation. We're very used to Governor Brown's era, in which there were it was fairly easy to calculate at least some of the adjustments that we could expect between, and the differences between what the Assembly and the Senate and the governor's office would agree upon. We're in a little bit new territory, and we wanted to be upfront with that. And so on the right-hand side, you see the same slide that I just used. However, these are some of the non-official updates that we're hearing, not necessarily from the governor's office directly, but certainly through different sources. And those have to do with what we're hearing. We're hearing that the COLA could actually adjust back up to 3.46 or even higher, depending on, again, the conversations with the Senate and the Assembly. We're also seeing and are hearing that STRS, we're hearing that that's steady. We haven't heard any real concerns that the STRS support will or would not continue. We're starting to hear conversations post-May revise about CalPERS possibly being integrated into the 1920 budget, and that was not official from the governor. The governor's office in January had made mention to possibly that a solution for 2021. However, we are seeing that those conversations could be happening. The big piece I want to highlight is just the special education, and there's been much discussion, and there's discussion regarding an equity formula or an equalization formula. We are hearing that despite what was presented in May, in terms of governor staying the course with the special education formula, we are hearing discussions that the equalization approach, so more of those dollars, or I'm sorry, those dollars going to more districts versus districts like San Diego Unified that have a higher concentration of IEPs. So with that, that's the high level, that's the state level piece from both what was presented at the May revise, but also some conversational allowances for what we're additionally hearing. As we turn to what it may mean for San Diego Unified, and again, here, at this point in time, if the May revise were to become the enacted budget, these are the estimates that we are seeing, especially based on guidance from the County Office of Education. What we do know is that we will continue to have a projected shortfall for 2021, primarily driven from our big five that we talk about, which is step and column, healthcare, special education, utilities, and pensions. We'll know much more about this in a few weeks, but at this point, the staff are preparing our projections as if the May revise, as written, as released by the governor, were a reality. So you can see the numbers here in terms of those shifts that we are hearing about, possibly a little bit of a decrease in terms of LCFF, but actually a little bit of an increase in terms of the CalSTRS. So those end up being a bit of a wash, and then a little bit more detail on what special education could look like for us if it goes the way that it was in May. Similar to the state level, here is also what we're hearing and what it could mean at the district level based on what we know at this point, and again, being fully transparent to the Board of Education. So if you look at the column on the far right, again, we're hearing different numbers. We're hearing different groups that may increase, and we're seeing in some places where the non-LCFF would not necessarily be adjusted up, but the LCFF could be adjusted up. We are hearing again that the CalSTRS is steady. We are mentioning here that the CalPERS is there as a possible discussion that could be part of the enacted budget. And again, just to draw attention, and this is not to paint doom and gloom, this is really to paint an understanding that we will know much more in several weeks, and we're hearing a greater degree of differing information than we're accustomed to. And so we are fairly confident that the governor's office and the Assembly and the Senate are moving around similar amounts of money, and so we're expecting puts and takes. We're just not quite sure exactly where these different puts and takes may be, to highlight if the special education, and again, just to isolate this area for a moment, knowing that we do have puts and takes in other areas, we are expecting it. If the special education formula goes the way of where it could go based on how one branch is leaning, then that could be a decrease to our budget of $24 million. Again, just to pinpoint that one, because the rest are more discussion. So again, not predicting that that is necessarily going to be the case, but making sure that everybody understands that based on how the discussions go between the governor's office, the veto, the Senate, and the Assembly, these are the things that we're looking to hear more about. But again, as recommended by the county office and others, we are basing our projections on the May revise, and we'll continue to stay focused and attuned. And again, thank you to our finance and our government relations team who are working on this daily to make sure we are updated. So with that, what are the next steps? We do know these are the major dates coming up, tracking towards a adopted budget by June 30th from the state. Typically, the state has it adopted before then. We will be bringing forward our enacted budget for the board later in June as well. So these are the major timelines that we're tracking for as the houses of government work together to have a compromise on the state budget. And with that, I look forward to any questions you may have and appreciate your time.
Any speakers? No speakers? Yes, Mr. Barrera.
Thank you, Greg. And the one item that I think we should keep on our radar in our advocacy efforts is in the May revise, the governor designated nearly $400 million of Prop 98 money to the rainy day fund, which I believe is the first time that Prop 98 money has gone away from the schools and into the rainy day fund. And $400 million statewide can make a little bit of a difference, to our district. So I think the rainy day fund, we all get the concept. It's grown enormously, over the last several years. So I would be concerned that more money is taken away from our students next year and put into this rainy day fund. So if we can work on that, that would be great.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Evans?
Yes. Can't tell if this is on. I agree about that, because that $400 million is probably $6, $7, $8 million or something like that for us. I think we just need to remember on all of this that as we try to work out all the details each year with the budget, we really need to go to constantly focus on the funding and adequacy. And as we solve the budget problem this month and next month and pass our budget, we need to go into immediate gear with our new governor in terms of what will be full and fair funding for education in California. And I still find it amazing that when we did a study in 2013-14, we said we would be able to provide the services that educators, parents, and everybody believes that we need in San Diego Unified with an additional $350 million. And in 2018, a state study came up that showed that, or a study by Stanford that showed that we needed $20 billion additionally for public education in California, which just by coincidence comes out to about $350 million for San Diego Unified. So in the ensuing years, the amounts, we have had increases every year for the last few years, and it has not kept up with the cost of living, with the cost of pensions, with everything else. And so, we're in this tight spot every year, but we need to really prepare all of us together to work on this fair funding for California.
Just a couple of things. Thank you for the report and the update on the May revise from the governor's January budget proposal. I think there's a couple of things that you pointed out. First of all, that's very important is how special education formulas are being looked at. At this point in time, the governor is proposing a more equitable allocation to school districts based on the need. And if the governor honors that commitment to special education students, that can really be a game changer for students in San Diego Unified. And I honestly hope that since the governor proposed that in January, he stuck to that position in May. I just really hope that we're doing everything we can on behalf of all the special education parents and students in our school district to let the governor know that we really need him to stick to his position on equity. Because equitable is not necessarily equal, because there are different levels of special education need. The second thing that I do want to point out is that, every time we come up with budgets and we look at how do we compare with other states in the United States, every year that I've been on the board, we have had a budget that has been unconstitutional. The California State Constitution says in one of its articles that the state of California education budget will be in the top 10 of all states in the United States of America. There was even a lawsuit by the California School Board Association many, many years ago that the judge refused to look at. Because every year I've been on the Board of Education, our state funding for public education has always been in the bottom, 49th, 48th, 46th, 44th, always in the bottom. And the thing that I just got to say it. This does not look like public education funding for a state controlled by Democrats. When you look at the funding levels of Democrat-controlled states across the United States of America, like Massachusetts, New York, New England, they all allocate and fully fund public education because they believe in it, they know the value of it, and they know that a well-informed, critical, populace is key to a vibrant democracy. And I am just very, very disappointed that year after year after year, we in California fail to fully fund public education. And here we go again. trying to figure out how to make ends meet with not enough resources. And to the point, Trustee Richard Barrera pointed out that the governor is taking $400 million away from our Prop 98 obligation to our children and is taking that $400 million away from our kids and putting it in the rainy day fund. I just think that's the wrong direction that we ought to be going in California. So thanks for the report, and as Superintendent Cindy Martin pointed out, this is not set in stone. There are moving parts. And I think it's really interesting. A lot of people that observe our school district budget process over the many months don't realize that we have got to come up with a budget without knowing how much money we're going to have next year. Yeah. And that won't be final until July. And so this is a work in progress. The numbers change, formulas change, but I really hope that the governor will stick to his special education program and formula. And I just hope that they reconsider taking that $400 million away from Prop 98. Give it back to the kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Barrera.
Yeah, I just real quickly wanted to back up some of the points that both Trustees Evans and Beiser were making about the issue of underfunding of public schools in California. So Rutgers University, there's a center there that does an annual analysis that compares state by state funding for public schools. And I think it's actually the best analysis that I've seen because it takes into account issues like cost of living. So it's, $10,000 a student in California is a lot different from $10,000 a student in Mississippi. And one of the points that it makes is it looks at a few different categories: overall levels of funding, class size, staff to student ratio, and a very interesting category, which is the percentage of a state's gross domestic product that goes to public schools. So essentially it's saying, and it calls that category effort. So it's essentially saying how much effort does a state make to fund its public schools given the wealth and the economic activity in that state. And there are 4 states in the country that get Fs in all of these categories.
Only 4.
Only 4.
4.
Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, and California. And California in particular gets an F in this issue of effort. And we're going to hear next year, as hopefully we've got revenue measures that get to the ballot, people are going to be saying Californians are overtaxed. We can't afford the money for schools. Well, we get an F in the effort that we make. And again, as Trustee Beiser and others have pointed out, as a blue state, we get an F in how hard we try to fund our public schools. And so as people start to think about this question of, in 2020, are we willing to do what we need to do to take the enormous amount of money and wealth in the state of California and channel it into our public schools, which has always been and will always be the best long-term, most sustainable effort to develop the state's economy and to develop the state's future? Are we willing to make the effort? And I think we're going to have those choices next year.
Thank you for the report, and I'd like to make a couple of comments on this budget process. Number one, I stated a few years ago, it's a horrendous process because we don't know up until July 1. We have to pass our budget by June 30th, but we don't know what they're doing in Sacramento, and that's where our money is coming from. If you'll notice those categories as you were going through, comparing January to May, in some areas we were counting on that rate and it dropped, so that you may be up or down or whatever, but it's something we don't know definitely until they pin it at the end. The governor signs it. So that makes for an interesting process. But one of the things I want to share is an experience I had a couple of weeks ago. It's an anecdotal example, but I was at a meeting at Porter School, And there was a community person there actually from the NAACP, and he was asking why didn't we have aides in the classroom? And someone there responded that we haven't had aides in the classroom since we fell off the cliff with our funding source. And so he was very surprised that we have such large class size and no additional support in the classrooms like aides or whatever. So the superintendent and I engaged in what we would do if we had additional revenue. But that is for us all to think about, that when we had all these propositions and things that cut the monies to the schools, when we had the budget crunches, it took monies away from the school. It increased the class size. It denied our children the opportunity to be in the top 10, and now we're coping with it, but it's not given them the resources that they really need to effectively support our children. So thank you for that report.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the trustee comments. So thank you. And our advocacy team is hard at work. Just wanted to provide one moment of clarity. When I reference the STRS or the pension piece, those are employee pensions. However, the percentage or the reprieve that we're expecting is on the employer portion of that. So just wanted to clarify that and share appreciation. So thank you.
Thank you. And let us now move on to item H2. I'd like a motion. Thank you. We have a motion by Mr.
Can we
Barrera.
take those up separately? I'm going to be abstaining on H2 and voting yes on 3.
Okay, so let's deal with H2. A motion on that? A second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have that motion on the floor. Do we have any, no speakers on H2, no discussion? No, okay, let's vote on it. H2, item H2. So we have 3-0 and 1 abstention. Okay. And now for item H3, a motion on that, please.
Second.
Okay. Any speakers?
Yes, we have one speaker, Francine Maxwell.
Okay. On H3, Ms. Maxwell.
Francine Maxwell, standing on behalf of Black Men and Black Women United. A new elementary school is absurd. What area of San Diego are these students going to come from? Enrollment is down in San Diego Unified. I don't understand the need for a K through 5. If we have money, we need to have one Porter Elementary. We don't need to have Porter North and South when you clearly know the issues that have been occurring at Porter. Porter should be rebuilt. We have enough money in the propositions, whether you use M or Z. Where's the data that shows we need another school? Do we have the data from the facilities department that clearly shows we need another school? This makes no sense. And when we want to keep talking about the budget, we can talk about the budget because we have a lot of misappropriation with the budget here at San Diego Unified. So let's be smarter and more transparent when it comes to money. Let's be more transparent when it comes to building a new school. Let's go to the underserved communities that have a whole bunch of land that will surface a brand new one campus Porter Elementary.
Okay. Any, no other speakers, presumably. Any discussion on it? Otherwise, let's vote, please. And that passes 4-0. Item H4.
Second, H4, rescinding the elimination of child development, particular kinds of services for the 1920 school year.
First of all, I wanted to say you got Mr. Barrera and Mr. Beiser who seconded that motion. Do we have any speakers on that?
Yes, we have 10 speakers on this item.
Okay. Let's hear them, please.
One. So it's 1 minute each for the 10 speakers. Marcelina Krieger, Miroslava Artiega, Camille Zombro, Breedem Patel, Nicole Hawk, Leonard Walker, Debbie Beaver, Adriana Valdez, Justina White, and Keisha Borden.
Just come in any order, it's fine.
And please say your name so I know who you are.
My name is Marcelina Krieger, and my daughter attends preschool at Colonel Solomon CDC. The extended hours that only the CDCs provide gives my daughter the quality education that will prepare her for elementary school and enables me to continue working full-time to provide for her. Like many other working parents who children attend Colonel Solomon, moving the drop-off time from 7 to 8:30 a.m. will make it impossible for my daughter to continue there, as I cannot afford to change my hours and I don't have the hundreds of dollars a month for preschool. Cutting hours and eventually closing CDCs will leave many working parents with no option but to withdraw their child entirely from preschool, and this lessens their chances of a successful transition to elementary school.
Thank you. Next.
Deb Beaver, CSEA, OTBS 788. Of course, I'm not against recalling teachers or any positions. My question lies in why you would have certificated employees doing the work of paraprofessionals, covering for lunches and breaks of classified preschool people. So in case you forget, I don't see anywhere on here where you're recalling any OTBS staff. All I see is teachers, and in fact, more than were cut. So that seems a little odd to me. It's really odd that there's going to have teachers doing classified. So I guess it's just one more thing I'll be bringing up at the CAC at the labor table and have to grieve you for doing the work of our people. So I'm all for bringing back CDCs and teachers, as you know, but I don't see anywhere on here where it talks about classified staff, except in covering for lunches, which I believe is against contract, if I'm not mistaken. A little funny, it's right in the board report.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Hoke, and my daughter goes to Walker CDC. Last week, Summer said to me, "Mommy, we can't let them close my school. What about all the kids?" It opened my eyes to see my daughter so passionate about standing up for something she believes in. So here I am doing the same. Summer started at CDC when she was 3 years old. I was working 2 jobs and going to school full-time, living on our own. I'm a single mom, and I can honestly say if it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I know there's many people who can relate. The staff members at Walker CDC have truly impacted my daughter's life in such a huge and positive way, and I am eternally grateful as they have been my daughter's first exposure to education. Thank you, Ms. Colleen and Mr. Walker. Throughout the last 3 years, I've recommended so many families over to Walker CDC. This program is exactly what we need to expand, not end. It gives hope to people who need it most. It supports parents and children in so many more ways than just financially. I value the community that's been established at Walker CDC, and I've prayed that others would stand and also value and input their time and attention to where it belongs, because it's at Walker CDC.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Miroslava Arteaga, and I'm here once again to talk on behalf of the Child Development Centers in our program. At a meeting we had at Chavez Elementary on May 10th, we spoke to Richard Barrera in regards to the closures of the Child Development Centers. And my question to him was, why were they closing? His answer was that because of low enrollment, especially in the summer months. However, like I explained to him, is that for the past 5 years, the program has decided to end services for students who are entering kindergarten as of June 30th. Richard Barrera was not aware of this, and we invited him to look into it and to find out why did the program start ending services for students entering kindergarten as of June 30th, and now they're saying that one of the reasons for closing child development centers is because of low enrollment in the summer. So it seems like they created the problem, they created the issue, and now they're blaming it on low enrollments. There's no kids, and where in reality there's always been children all summer long in the Child Development Centers. I've been a teacher in the Child Development Center for 20 years. So what I'm saying is the truth.
Thank you. Your time is up. Send us a note. Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Camille Zombro. I'm third grade teacher and a San Diego Unified parent. I'm going to talk as fast as I can. I want to talk about how this small decision that looked like a small decision was actually huge on the community where I teach. Chavez is on the rise. Other neighborhood schools are declining in enrollment or being cohabitated by charter schools, but we're actually growing or holding steady, and that's because of our work on having a quality neighborhood school, and that foundation of that work is our quality preschool program. When you did those 10 or 11 or 12 or 16, however many layoffs, you laid off both of our preschool teachers, our entire preschool program. So the parents, CDC, and we thankful to Trustees Whitehurst, Payne, and Barrera for coming to meet with us. We know that you can't make promises, but we understood when we left those meetings that it was your desire and intent that the CDCs and ECE programs be kept as they are going into next year, and that was because of the really serious questions we raised about the numbers and the data that was the basis of decisions that you'd made previously. So there's an apparent conflict between that, but we hope that you'll keep the programs whole because we need them all.
Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Adriana Valdez. I'm here to present to the board letters from parents and staff members in support of our preschools and the teachers. And I also wanted to read as much as I can of this letter from two parents from who have a child at the CDC program at Colonel Solomon. To whom it may concern, the San Diego Unified School District provides a CDC program to employ parents with children under the age of 5. We are more than grateful to be part of this program. As working parents, we depend on the program for countless reasons that not only benefit us as parents, but our children. Removing this program is a mistake. The CDC program has given parents peace of mind when it comes to our children's safety. They provide a safe, warm environment that help our children develop skills such as early social skills, reading, a safe, warm environment that help our children develop skills, writing, simple math, building friendships, and responsibility for their actions and belongings. It helps our children prepare for their academic journey. They will soon embark starting elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Leonard Walker, and I have been the child development teacher for 32 years. I don't usually speak up at board meetings, but I felt just compelled to do so. I just wanted to, make sure that you all realize that our center at Walker Child Development Center has been completely full for many years now, especially in the summertime when parents need us the most. I understand that some information that are not factual has possibly led to our future closure. I also understand that with the shortage of funds comes certain cuts, but if your information on enrollment is incorrect, please do a study and not close us until you know all the facts. After you have gotten all the information, if you feel like you need to close us then do so, but not until then. Please come to our sites. We want you guys to come over. I mean, we've invited everybody on the board to come to our sites many times, and no one has come. Talk to our families.
Thank you.
Talk to our children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Justina White. I'm a San Diego resident, actually a San Diego native. My grandfather actually went to school here at San Diego High, graduated in 1936. These are my grandchildren. I'm here as a parent, a grandparent, and a taxpayer. 26 years ago, I put my daughter at Euclid Child Development Center because I was a single parent and I needed to work and go to college. I went back to college, became an administrative officer for the state of California for a number of years, and then retired from it. My daughter currently for the last 4 years has been working for the DMV, and she has had her kids in the schools at Dewey, which closed, and we would like Dewey to reopen. My grandson right now currently goes to Colonel Solomon CDC, and it helps her and her husband. He's working as a cook, she's at the DMV raising these 4 children. Her other one couldn't make it. And another thing I want to say about these CDCs, they're always full. There's a wait list. She's right about the summer. My daughter went all the way until she started kindergarten, but now they do let them go early.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
Our CDCs serve an extremely important function in our neighborhoods and communities. Our CDCs and the dedicated educators that staff them create an invaluable foundation for the children enrolled. There are countless studies that show the value of preschool and early childhood education. But my concern today is that this board was not given a true analysis of enrollment at our CDCs, as you've heard several times. There were waiting lists at the CDCs that were closed down, and you were told they had declining enrollment. That makes no sense. I urge you to call a timeout, bring back those laid-off educators. This item before us is seriously flawed. I would hope that the board demands answers and finds out what is really going on with our CDCs and the program that's running it before we completely destroy this valuable program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you guys for letting me talk. You're missing some pages on our agenda, so just to let you know, some people may be missing pages, so we didn't know there were these numbers on there until it came up. One of the things that I want to say, the importance of CDC, child development, as we know, 0 to 5, womb to college and career. We talk about that all the time. We've talked about it for generations, and what you're doing is damaging children for generations. So we ask that you humbly look at what these people behind me have said, and the people that aren't in the room, but also to remember that when you guys got elected, you said you would put kids first. You would put staff first. And when we talk about a blue state, when we talk about politics, let's take politics out, because this is about education. This is about making sure that children thrive, making sure that teachers thrive, and making sure that they're there. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that end it? That's it? Let us have any public discussion, or shall we just vote? Anybody wants to say anything? It's already done. Then let's vote. And that passes 4-0. Thank you all. Let us now move to...
Thank you, Trustee Barrera, for pushing and championing this, and thank you, Superintendent Martin and President Whitehurst-Payne, for bringing these people back.
Let us now move to I-38 and 54.
I'll move item 38 and I-54.
All the items were approved on the superintendent's consent agenda except I-38 and I-54.
Sorry.
It looks like on the blue page, Ms. Maxwell wanted to speak on I-5.
You need to tell them they need to exit quietly. We're still in session. This is ridiculous. We've missed half the meeting because we can't hear. We're still in session. You guys are going home, but we still need to conduct business. So please try to exit quietly. So you guys already passed I-5?
No. But she can still speak.
We can always reconsider it.
Right. Let's do that, because we weren't...
I signed up for I-5, Francine Maxwell, because of the African American and English student pilot program at Morris High School. The explanation was very vague. What exactly are you going to be doing for these students? You say test continuous improvement process. What exactly is that? The cost to staff subs and stipends for staff is $23,200. The principals are going to pick their favorite friend teachers that they go shopping and drinking with on the weekends. So the children that didn't get taught all day, and then you're going to turn around and give the same teachers that are handpicked by the principal these stipends. And so if the staff is being funded, what exactly are they doing above and beyond? How are they teaching these kids in the past? So they've had them all day to 2:30, you're going to give them some more money. There's no clear method or process to understanding of what exactly the teachers will be teaching these students. It's kind of strange that you've lumped the African American children with the English learners, because there's clearly, the data shows who's at the bottom and who's not. So I completely understand that you love pilot programs and you don't think that $23,200 $200 is anything, but when you're on a tight budget, we should be watching every penny. So I completely understand that you've already passed this, and I would just like you to take into consideration that we had no speaker system outside. The TVs will not let us have closed caption, so we get nothing. And we know that there's a fire issue in here, but you need to make sure that on our public meeting days that we can hear you. The speakers used to work outside. We used to have closed caption on our TVs. So I would hope that we would look at that in our facilities.
Thank you, Superintendent. You should look into that, please, about them being able to hear. We were having trouble in here even.
Did Ms. Maxwell also want to speak on the other two items that she had pulled, or was that all of them?
I had I-38, a new system that teachers and non-teachers use to request subs. The system costs $530,000. Seriously? The system was not the issue. The fact is that there's not enough subs on a daily basis. That's the issue. What is the district doing about hiring more subs? To spend $530,863.31 is just appalling to me as a taxpayer. Lastly, I-54. So a Harvard graduate is going to work on their PhD capstone project at San Diego Unified School District. The person is going to be paid $70,000 to do this. What is a capstone project? How did this person get selected to do the work with the district? What is to stop anybody from wanting to do the same thing? And I'm not saying wanting to do the same thing. Where's the transparency and the equity? Because we know how a lot of our PhD students come to San Diego Unified through your one employee because their friends or somebody recommend them. We haven't had an African American PhD student in quite a while to come and make $70,000. And as a taxpayer, and as the fact that Race and Human Relations is shut down, we need to be looking at equity, equity, equity.
We did have a late addition. Tasha Williamson would like to speak on two items that were already on the consent agenda. Yeah. Right.
Tasha, what? I couldn't hear outside. You guys were packed. It was special education. I have several folks that definitely need support. I appreciate Sarah Ott and the other woman who came out to talk to one of the parents that came today. But I have about 20 other parents where IDEA law is not being met. When you talk about budgeting for special education, I really need people that know the law. I need people that understand how to do IEPs. And I need it to happen really quick because you have a lot of schools that are elementary, middle, and high. I'm going to say it again. Elementary, middle, and high, who are not following laws. So when we talk about a blue state, because I'm a Democrat, and we talk about it in a way that doesn't feel so good, I would look to you all who are elected officials, who the blue Democrats helped get into that office, to make sure that kids are not being violated their rights by people you hired and did not train properly and did not give the proper tools. So I do not blame the staff, but I look to all of you and I blame you. My other one was student expulsions. On several occasions, I've had to come to this school district, and I've had to fight for students who are being expelled, who have IEPs. I've had to fight for students who are being expelled who do not have IEPs, and that the law is not being followed. I know you have attorneys sitting up here with you, behind you. I hope that she helps you to follow the laws, and not in a smirking way, but in a way that is legal. It's time for you guys to change, and we will either change together in a restorative way, or we will change your seats.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it on section I.
Okay, we just need, who moved the motion?
I did.
I need a second on it.
Yeah, the previous items that were not already passed.
Okay. Richard seconds it. Before we vote, Superintendent, we're having workshop this summer, right?
Yes, on special education.
Tell us about it.
There's a special education workshop, 3-day Principal Institute this summer.
Very good. Thank you. All right, let's vote, please. And that passes 4-0. And that takes us to the end of the agenda for public testimony.
Madam President, I have a personal issue that I need to excuse myself from the meeting at this time. I apologize.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have about 20 people who signed up for non-agenda testimony, so I'm going to call the names and hopefully they're still here. Tony Ridenour, Joanne Moffett, Lisa Hagerman, Esmeralda Bishop, Patrice Breslow.
Just call all the speakers. If you're here, just come and order doesn't matter, just come.
Ramona Jones, Christopher Poblete, Leela Poblete, Stacy Ruddick, Olivia Ruddick, Susan Stark, Mariah Wu, Amy Young, Wilhelmina Bradley, Shannon Liptich, Morgan Mochka, Donald Scott, Kimberly Carpenter, Tony Bradley, Wilhelmina Bradley, Christy Christenko, Tasha Williamson, and Deb Beaver.
Just announce your name as you step forward. 1 minute. Each, yes. 1 minute.
Thank you, esteemed board members. My name is Janann Moffett. I've been a registered credentialed school nurse with San Diego Unified for 18 years, and I've emailed each and every one of you. This is my last-ditch effort. You've heard again and again how an unhealthy child cannot learn, but beyond their poor general health, vision, and hearing deficits, our children today come to school with serious, complex medical problems requiring specialized medical procedures. If there are not nurses on site to care for these children, their health and safety are in jeopardy. If a critical incident occurs while a nurse is not on site, lawsuits may follow. I present to you with a crucial non-agenda item. As you may or may not know, our nursing department assignments have been determined by HR and the finance department this year without consulting on-site nurses or administrators for their input. Since HR did not use Title I or special ed funding in determining nursing allocation, the system they use will definitely negatively impact the care of children who fall in this realm. You have in front of you their proposed pairings of schools for nurse time. They have no idea what acute issues we handle on a daily basis.
Do you have a copy of that document that you could submit? Okay, she has. Yes, thank you. Okay, the next person, Tasha.
As a victim of sexual misconduct, I find it hard today that I listened to several of you talk about violating the laws while you sat up here with someone who has allegedly violated laws. I know that we all, including you all in the Democratic Party, have asked Kevin Beiser to resign. And I would continue to ask that Kevin Beiser resign. The allegations against Kevin Beiser are horrific. And the way that this district has been run is also horrific. We cannot have someone in office in leadership that has allegations like this standing. We do not need him in leadership at a school district with sexual allegations, and we definitely do not need him in any type of leadership with the Democratic Party. Please do not talk about the Democratic Party in the way that you have while you have someone sitting here who has violated law as well.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Lisa Hagerman. I request that the USD Board of Education put on the agenda For the 2019-2020 school year, the district's sex ed curriculum authored by Advocates for Youth and/or schedule a forum to allow public review and comment on the curriculum and advertise this widely so parents have enough advance notice to attend. The district's sex ed curriculum is not in compliance with California law. I have shared my concerns in a closed online forum of 700 Marshall Middle School parents and received many replies and agreement. I've also been informed that disparaging characterizations of Christians are scattered throughout the curriculum. Bias against Christians is prohibited under Section 51933D4 of the California Healthy Youth Act, which states that instruction and materials shall not reflect or promote bias against any person on the basis of any category protected by Section 220, which includes religion. And I'll give you a copy of my letter, too. We have a right to a sex education curriculum that is in compliance with California law.
Thank you. Thank you for the letter. Next, please.
Hi, Deb Beaver, CSEA 788. So I would have spoken longer on the teacher item, recalling the teachers. It's kind of the same topic. So I'm bringing it up now because I got my 2 minutes. But there were some cuts in the budget department. They cut 2 classified staff, and they added 4 certificated teachers that I was told were to help with the staffing of the budget analysts, which are classified staff. So it's supposed to take off the work from the budget people and give it to the certificated. I guess they got one teacher for each group. I don't know why there'd be 6 of them, but they eliminated 2 positions, 2 classified positions, and added 4 teachers, and I've heard today a confidential admin. So again, I'm going to ask you to look into the classified staffs in the budget department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, Christopher Boblete. I'm here tonight with my 2 kids, Hanther and Layla. I'm here to tell you how great Thrive Public School is and how it's served our community well. Thrive Public School is a school that served 54th Street and Linda Vista communities. And those are communities that need a charter school that has diversity, that's project-based, that has educators that teach to the needs of all their kids, including kids with special needs. And this is something that we are fighting for because this is a school that shouldn't have shut down. And let's make some corrections that were made from earlier tonight. Thrive was under the State Board of Education. It went for its renewal, and it was not approved or denied. No vote occurred because we didn't have enough board members to make a final decision of six votes.
Thank you. Next, please.
I've had the best year ever at my charter school. I'm doing 6th grade math and I'm in 5th grade. I do fun and engaging projects. I know you don't care. I'm not coming back to your district ever.
Wilhelmina Bradley, as you guys know. My child falls into the category of Black, Brown, and children with IEPs. You guys want to sit here and whine about money? Okay, start cutting the superintendent's salary. What about Richard's salary? It's not the state's fault you the district, aren't managing the money properly. You say you care about kids. I'm still waiting for the proof. In an article, August 28, 2018, the superintendent said she gave herself an A and she called herself a superhero. Yes, for your child, that already graduated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
But there's a green button at the bottom.
Where? Just want to go here.
Thrive Public Schools helps me focus and it makes me feel like I belong. When I first came to the school, I did not feel like I was smart and that I needed to be silly to make friends to get the spotlight. My teacher, Miss Jacqueline, taught me how to be a better friend. She showed me how to be a good friend, and when I got in a fight with friends at school, she would pull us together and we would make peace. Now I play with everybody in an opening to be anyone's friend as long as they treat me with respect. I also used to hate working on math, but Thrive changed all that. My other teacher, Miss Allie, helped me go for the challenges and problems at schoolwork. Now I think math is just as fun as reading because I get to use my brain more and more. Thrive does help me like work, go for challenges, make friends, and show kindness to one another. Please let places like Thrive continue to help me and other students in our city.
Thank you.
Hi. 5 years ago, we adopted 3 amazing kids through the foster system, and we actually moved locations from Santee to your district because we didn't want them to grow up as a minority. And we just so happened to find a school that intentionally went out to communities that were underserved and created a model UN for them, and that was Thrive Public Schools. And I saw every socioeconomic class, every ethnicity, every creed represented in harmony, and they were all ignited and excited to learn. As a result from this model, my oldest daughter is a 4th grader reading at 8th grade level and has mastered math and writing at grade level. My 2 daughters don't need an IEP or 504 plan, despite having trauma by growing up in the foster system. And my son, who does need help, got every step taken and care and attention given to him to make sure that his future would also be bright. And yet this school is closed down, a school that should be working in harmony with the district. In many states, the charters and the district work together in harmony, and I would like to encourage that in the future.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Chiscano, and I'm coming as a representative of a parent at Longfellow K-8 school. We want the superintendent and the area superintendents to know that the fact that we do not have a vice principal is severely affecting not only our children, but also the parent communication with the staff, and we're respectfully requesting that the area superintendents please meet with the parent communities in both those schools so we can rediscuss what was done to try to get a vice president as a staff, what has happened in this year, and what are the possibilities for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
Unless there's anyone who'd signed up for F4 that would still like to speak.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming and participating tonight, and to announce that our next meeting will be held, our next regular meeting will be held on June 18th, 2019. However, we'll have the LCAP workshop at the Ballot Center on June 12th. And for all of you who are wrapping up the school year, have a good year, and we'll see you on June 12th. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.